Well, good morning. May this message be your message to us today, O God. Amen. Welcome to this so-called Low Sunday, Easter 2. As I hear it, this Sunday after Easter is called it because usually the lowest attendance. If that's so, we're setting the record at St. John's this week, with only the rector in attendance. And you can't even accuse me of preaching to the choir. Of course, this is true around the globe. As we heard today's gospel, we could also call this Doubting Sunday. I grew up in a church that really disparaged doubting Thomas. And I constantly felt so much guilt for my many and constant doubts. What relieved me over the years was hearing other Christians that I respected acknowledge their doubts. I even read a book years ago by a pastor of a megachurch who reported that they regularly conducted a doubting Sunday. And it's a time when the members would write their doubts down and bring them to the church and put them in a big box at the back of the church. And in the evening service, the pastor, I understood, brought this big box to the altar and offered it up. Well, I guess I'm not alone, I thought. One of my favorite writers, Frederick Buechner, said that doubts are the ants in the pants of faith. And he confessed that when it came to the ones in his head, there was almost nothing he couldn't doubt when the fit was upon him. Well, I can relate. Our buddy Thomas here was called Didymus, meaning the twin. Henry Nouwen points out that the early church leaders taught that each of us is two people, a doubting person and a trusting one. To Thomas's credit, he didn't allow his doubting self to remain dominant, but returned to the fellowship of the disciples with his big questions of the resurrection. It was in their midst that Jesus came to him, and he experienced the mystery of the living Christ and gave his whole self over to Jesus. My Lord and my God. Jesus' response was to tell him that he had come to trust because he had seen. But blessed are those who, having not seen, trust. That's us. We all need our brothers and sisters here at St. John's to keep our doubting self from dominating and leading us away from God. I have a confession to make here. For years, I've had trouble with the Nicene Creed, nagging intellectual doubts, even when taking parts of it symbolically or remembering its context in the 4th century. I even thought about not joining in, staying silent, or crossing my fingers behind my back while saying it. What has kept me from letting my doubting self take over has been my showing up here week after week in this very caring and faithful community. and hearing the variety of voices reciting the creed with faith and trust. We're in this together. It's also helped me to learn that credo doesn't mean believe as in the head, but means trust, as in I'm giving my whole self over to this mystery. There are other kinds of doubts, much more profound, that don't reside in the head. Buechner calls them doubts of the stomach, the ones that grab us in the gut. I imagine Thomas had them big time. Can't we see how disillusioned he'd be after having put all his hopes in the Messiah, Jesus, and having it end in such a horrible way, and with the authorities out to get them? He's feeling alone and in fear for his life. There it is, the gut doubt that takes over and leads to fear. I've been there. And maybe even Jesus. My God, why have you forsaken me? Was experiencing this kind of doubt. It makes me think of the story in Mark 4 where the disciples are in the boat and Jesus is in the stern sleeping. The storm comes up. These guys made their living in boats on the sea, so we got this. When the waves start coming over the gunwales, and their expertise and strength on the oars wasn't getting it done, Pete yells at John and James to grab the coffee cans and start bailing like crazy. Again, it's to no avail. The storm is out of control. They're completely overwhelmed. Only then do they think to wake up Jesus, crying out, Master, don't you care that we're dying? I think we could call that question as coming from the gut, sheer panic. And what a question to ask Jesus. Don't you care? Who cares more than Jesus? Well, he gets up and speaks these words. Peace, be still. Well, such a calm descended on them that they could hear the water dripping off the oars into the sea. Jesus turns to them and asks, Why are you afraid? What happened to your faith? Well, hey, it was really scary here for a while. Well, here we are today in the midst of a pandemic. And in spite of all our expertise and technical and medical know-how and our sophisticated systems, we're overwhelmed, way over our heads. It's out of control, and we're tempted to give ourselves over to gut doubt and sheer terror. At a time like this, so strange and challenging around the globe, it's good to remember that Jesus is in the boat with us. Let's hear him say, Peace, be still, in the quiet of our slowed down, locked down lives each day. What an opportunity to be still and listen to what the Spirit is whispering to us at this momentous time. And let's listen together. Thank God for Zoom. The point of Mark's story is surely that God is calling us to a life in God that isn't driven by fear, a life of trust and courage, even when the storm is raging outside. We're being called together to trust God, freed up to care about others, and full of compassion for the most vulnerable among us, for whom this virus is absolutely devastating. We need each other to bolster our trust in God, just as Thomas finally came to faith in the fellowship of his brothers and sisters. My Lord and my God. Blessed are they who, having not seen, have put their trust in me. I pray that Jesus was talking about us at this critical time. Amen.